This Karen wants to get rid of her fiance's 5-year-old kid. My 32-year-old fiance has a 5-year-old daughter. Her mother passed away when she was giving birth to her. He has been raising her ever since he lost his wife, with the help of his family, of course. I am now in the picture, and we are going to get married in 2023, and I'm 6 months pregnant with his son. I am not the stepmother type, so I know I won't treat this daughter the same way I will treat our son. To be quite honest, she annoys me. She looks exactly like her mother, so she constantly reminds my fiance of his dead wife, and she is very attached to her daddy, which makes me afraid that my son will not be able to bond with his father because of her. Basically, I want to tell my fiance to get rid of her. She can live with her grandparents, or we can find a nice couple that wants to adopt a child. I don't know how to approach the situation, but I need to find a way to convince my fiance to get rid of her. I'm just trying to look out for my son and make sure that he will get all of his father's attention that he deserves. Please help. Bruh. I hope someone knows this mom and sends this to the guy she is about to marry, because this is grade A terrible human behavior right here. If I was this guy, after that new baby is born, I'd try to get full custody and get as far away from this woman as possible, because I wouldn't want my child learning anything from this terrible person. Am I the jerk? I stole from and lied to my poor father and never confessed. I'm currently 26, and this happened when I was 20. I still haven't told anyone, and I need to get this off my chest. It's especially weighing on me since he died recently. At the time, I was dating a really crappy guy who I was convinced was just having a rough patch in his life. Even when he started stealing money from me that year, I would let it go after a small fight. He would leave me with very little, and I was often going to my dad's place for snacks. One day, though, I reached my limit. I had gotten a bonus from my job at the time, and I had no plans on telling my boyfriend about it, in hopes that I could finally have some money for myself. But he found out, and inevitably stole it. It did start a big fight between us, and I ran to my dad's that night to sleep over. I explained everything to him, and he was very supportive. I even had to talk him down when he started threatening to go attack my boyfriend himself. We ate dinner, and he went to bed a little later. So, I was alone with my thoughts. I remember that my dad had been saving money to go on vacation, after several decades of hard work. My dad wasn't very well off himself, so the $300 he had saved so far was a big deal. But something had came over me. I stole all the money from the glass jar he had been keeping it in, and then I broke the jar with a plan. I also broke a few little trinkets that were laying around. When my dad woke up the next morning, he saw the broken empty jar and demanded an explanation as I had been standing there. I forced myself to cry, although it wasn't hard, and I made up a story that my boyfriend had just come in, started a huge fight, and stole the money, breaking other things in the process. He didn't even question me. I guess my crying worked. He immediately went to call the cops, but I begged and convinced him not to, just saying stuff like he pays the bills at our apartment, I'll have nothing if he gets arrested, and other BS. It took a lot to convince him not to report it. He offered me to stay at his place, but I kept making excuses. After a few days, I went home feeling sick with myself. I wanted so badly to return the money, but I felt like he would never forgive me. Looking back, I wish I could punch myself in the face for that. I was such a blind idiot, and he continues to be a supportive dad after that, even though I stayed with that monster of an ex for 2 more years. But last year, my current boyfriend and I went in on a Christmas present for my dad. It was an all-expense paid trip to go on the vacation he dreamed of. It was a lot for us to pull it off, but I still feel like I haven't redeemed myself for what I did to him before. I also haven't told my boyfriend about this. I just told him that I wanted to surprise my dad with the trip and continued the lie I had been committed to. This story had me boiling with rage. This OP mentioned that she wanted to punch herself, and I wanted to do the big brother thing and say, stop hating yourself, stop hating yourself, because she totally deserves it. I'm glad that she tried to redeem what she had done by giving her father the vacation he dreamed of. That is a good thing, but I wish she would have just told him before he died, because now that's just something that she will have to live with for the rest of her life. And yeah, he probably would have been mad, but from his previous actions, he probably would have forgave her because he seemed like a good dad. Am I the jerk? I'm a grown man who broke a kid's arm. At the time, I was a rich lawyer in DC in fairly good shape. For example, I could easily bench 270. Anyways, part of being a lawyer in DC is picnics. Lots and lots of picnics. Me and my wife were at one of said picnics, and there was this a-hole little kid running around trying to physically tackle me. I tried to just sort of put my hand out and hold him away from me, but no, he continued to do this. I guess some people might say this was one of those I didn't know my own strength types of situations, but I did know how strong I was. Anyways, I got so annoyed that I picked up this kid and I threw him. I threw him, like in the air, feet off the ground threw him. He kind of landed on his arm and we moved on. He didn't say anything and he just stopped. A couple weeks later, someone who was also at that picnic said, "Hey, remember when you threw that kid at the picnic?" I was like, "Yeah." "Well, yeah, you broke his arm." I was terrified. It's been 18 years or so, nothing ever happened. No letter, no nothing, just like it never happened. This confession reminded me of a middle school memory. I was on the basketball team and we had this short, skinny kid that loved to pick on people. I'm pretty sure this was because he was insecure about his height. Well, he always tried to pick on me, but I would always just brush it off, until one day we were doing drills and he threw the ball at my back. I told him to chill out, but he just laughed in my face and moments later did it again. That was the end of the line. I threw my ball to the side, started walking towards him, he started backpedaling fast. I grabbed him in a full Nelson lock, spun him around and let him go. Dude went flying. Remember, this was middle school, so this dude was like 70 pounds soaking wet. He did try to act all tough after going airborne, but coach showed up to break up any possible fight. Dude never messed with me again after that. It was good times. Am I the jerk? I stole a guy's wallet, took the money and credit cards. This was a while ago, about 2015. I worked in the airport cleaning out planes once the passengers left. My team went to a certain aircraft and there was this one JetBlue tech worker who was beyond nasty to us for no reason. He was literally like, "Y'all maids can't come back later? Do you not see that I'm on this plane or are you blind?" I was leading my team and got directions from my management to do this plane, because it would have passengers boarding in about an hour. I told them to ignore him and do their job as I will be doing mine. He continued to curse under his breath and act like we were beneath him because we were cleaning cabins. I went to clean another row of seats and I saw his wallet, and I only knew it was his wallet because his ID was inside. So I picked it up, took out the money and the cards and threw everything else in a big garbage bag that we put the trash in. I didn't feel bad at the time, but now I'm like, damn, it was a pretty jerk move. Yeah, I would say that was a pretty jerk move, my guy. And if you use the credit cards, pretty illegal. Am I the jerk? I pulled a knife on a person at a party in college. In the early 2000s, I was at a college house party. Some a-hole sucker punched me in the head from behind trying to be funny. So I took out a pocket knife and showed it to him with a "don't mess with me" look on my face. I didn't open it. I didn't think anything of it at first, but a second or two later, the entire place freaked out, I can't blame them, and threw me out of the house. Literally. The 3 friends I was there with ghosted me after that, and in a flash, I lost my whole group of friends instantly. We had been good friends for 2 years at this point, but apparently that was the last straw type of thing for me. I ended up spending the rest of my college career, 2.5 years, essentially alone aside from occasionally hanging out with neighbors and coworkers. This was almost 20 years ago, and I still cringe when I think about how unbelievably dumb I was. Pulling out a knife can be a bit extreme, but dude got sucker punched. Also, what kind of friends are these? They stopped being friends with him because he decided to stand his ground after getting sucker punched? Those friends must suck. Am I the jerk? I let a friend take the blame for the burn damage I caused. In my 20s, I had a roommate that I liked, who had friends that I didn't like, and they were at the house all the time. One night, a long time ago, when people smoked cigarettes by the cartons and every house had ashtrays everywhere, 3 of us were very, very lit, and probably wasted, playing video games. Beer everywhere, ashtrays overflowing, I fell asleep on the couch. I woke up very early and saw my roommate's dirtbag friend passed out on the floor. I also saw that my roommate's coffee table, a really beautiful piece that he made himself in class, had a 4-inch burn line in the top from a freshly lit cigarette that had rolled off the ashtray. The butt proved that it was my brand. I had apparently lit it and passed out. Completely believable behavior from any of the 3 of us. I didn't hesitate for a second. I picked up my cigarette butt, fished out one of the dirt bags from the ashtray, and burned it down to the filter, even melting into the lacquer. I woke up a few hours later to a lot of yelling and a lot of apologizing. I usually have an active conscience, but I never really managed to feel bad about this. Bruh, you should! I mean, the amount of effort that went into framing this guy, dude should at least feel a little bad. Am I the jerk? I stole over $500 worth of food from the fast food restaurant I worked at. When I was 17, I had got my first job at a fast food restaurant that served pizza. All of my coworkers were cool and for the most part good people, but the owner on the other hand treated his workers terrible. My manager was constantly working double shifts and was threatened to be fired if she did not comply with every one of his wishes. She was a single mother living off minimum wage, and this pissed me off because she was a genuinely good person just trying to earn an honest living and provide for her son. I quickly realized why my coworkers hated the owner, as they had threatened to fire them all the same way. I also noticed that some of my coworkers would take drinks from the cooler that was in front of the store. I was curious if this was allowed to just take a drink whenever you wanted. We weren't, but I didn't care because that meant less money in the pockets of the owner. Little by little, each shift I was stealing after that. It started off with just taking a drink during some of my shifts and giving away small things like sauce cups to people who asked. Eventually, I started making my own pizzas and taking them after my shift without paying for them. One day, my manager had brought to the coworkers' attention that we could not take food or drinks without paying paying for them. I didn't care though because all the workers, myself included, were taking abuse from not only the owner, but the customers that would come in. Eventually, I started taking multiple pizzas, drinks, sauces, literally anything I liked. And even my friends would come in while I was working and I would give them anything they wanted. I knew my manager was turning a blind eye to the workers because there was so much worse things that were happening than just me stealing. One of my coworkers was actually selling stuff out of the back of the store. Anyways, I never got in trouble for all the stealing I had done, and I quit a few months ago. Stealing is bad, kids, and so is treating your workers badly. So I don't really care that this guy stole from a crappy owner. Am I the jerk? I outed my brother when I was younger and caused him to be disowned. Never would I make excuses for the amount of hurt and suffering that I put my brother through by my stupid actions. But this whole situation has always been the root of my hatred of myself. Our family are strict Catholics. I was an impressionable child who grew up with hearing bigoted beliefs. Being gay was a sin, how men should only be with women, etc. almost my entire life. So the day I caught my brother with another man, I relayed the information to my father, naively thinking at the time my brother would find help he needed. I didn't think it would lead to my brother and his boyfriend ending up in the ER and my parents practically throwing him out on the streets and disowning him. It has been years since then, and I have cut ties with my family for a while now. From what I can tell from social media is that my brother is doing well for himself with his husband, and for that I am grateful. This story does have an edit. Huge thanks for the kind words and supportive comments. After a couple of hours of debating and the encouragement from friends, I have decided to try and contact my brother once again. I did a little after cutting ties with my parents, and it was only to apologize and congratulate him on his marriage. Being from a very conservative state myself, I hear sad stories like this all the time. I hope this OP and his brothers can make amends because it does seem like he knows the error of his ways. Am I the jerk? I once stole some of my teacher's pens from her pencil case when I was 6 and got the special kid kicked out. It was so wrong of me to do what I did. A couple of days before this happened, I saw my teacher's colorful pens and I really wanted them so bad. Fast forward a couple of days later when we were sitting in a circle with a few kids having a learning support session. From the teachers separate to the whole class, which included a special kid. Let's call him Luke. While we were reading a book, the teacher stands up to go get something, and that's when I decided to empty her pencil case on the floor, wanting some of those pens. I went through all of the pens and took the ones I wanted and put the rest back. After lunch, we were all told to go into the classroom as there was a problem. While we were sitting there, the teacher entered the room and explained how some of her pens were missing from her pencil case. No one would own up to it as expected, which made everyone lose their lunch break. While everyone was in the classroom, I went over to the special kid's bag and put all the pens that I took in his pencil case because I was scared that they would find me out. Fast forward to the end of the day. I went to my teacher and told her while she was gone to get something, Luke took some of her pens, and I completely blamed it on him knowing he wouldn't be able to defend himself. The next day after that, Luke wasn't in school and my teacher had a bruise on her face. At break time, I overheard some people talking about how he got angry at the teacher for being accused and kicked her in the face, which led to him getting kicked out of school. Sometimes I wonder how the kid is right now. I wish I had never done that. Bro, this kid was a jerk. I totally understand that he was 6, but just because kids are little doesn't mean that they can't be little jerks. What makes me so mad about this is he could have legit changed this kid's life with this little incident. The kid was probably labeled problematic, and his next teacher might have treated him differently. I say this because I was labeled as a problem child growing up, and it wasn't until the 3rd grade when my teacher, bless her soul, found out I was dyslexic. I wasn't a problem, I just had a learning disability. So yeah, I'm glad the OP knows they did wrong, but still a jerk in my opinion. Am I the jerk? I ran out of TP in the 3rd grade and used some random guy's shorts. So one day in the 3rd grade during recess, I really, and I mean really, had to poop. So like anyone else would do, I sprint all the way to the bathroom and took the next available stall. However, there just so happened to be another guy in the stall beside me, minding his own business and going about his day. After unloading this unholy poo, I had then noticed that my stall was out of TP. I also noticed that this guy in the stall beside me just so happened to have his shorts all the way off. My thoughts as a kid was that this guy should have kept his shorts on like a normal person instead of leaving them on the ground. So I then proceeded to do what I thought was my only option, was to use this guy's pair of shorts to wipe my butt. The entire time he was repeatedly screaming, "Give me back my shorts!" And I'm almost positive that in that moment he had no clue what my intentions were and just wanted his shorts back so he could go back to class. Or maybe he had thought that I was stealing from him. Regardless, after I had finished absolutely ruining his shorts, I had to find an escape route. Meanwhile, this kid is still screaming at me to give him back his shorts. My only option was to set them out of his reach and sprint out of the bathroom in hopes he wouldn't be able to catch up to me. Since then, I've still never spoken to this kid and I hope he's doing alright. Bro, this story legit made me drop drop my jaw and laugh. I can only imagine how scared this little kid is after having his shorts stolen. On top of that, whoever found him screaming, because I assume he didn't leave the stall, probably thought he pooped his own pants. So now he's probably known as the poops his pants kid at school. Dude, I feel so bad for that kid, but this story was hilarious. So that's it for today's episode. Let me know your favorite story in that comment sections down below. Don't forget to follow on Spotify and hit that subscribe button if you want more content like this in the future.